Hi, how's it in the name of Christ? It's Garabo. I hope you're good. I hope you're peachy. I hope you're okay. Stella, whatever. It's the 11th of October, 2023. The next day, so yesterday, I believe, was a height that was reached when it comes to my sickness. So this morning I woke up having intervened against this flu, this cough, this issue. I remember I was coughing bad. As you can hear, it doesn't sound that bad anymore, and nasally I'm not as blocked or as congested. So essentially the means that I employed in order to overcome this worked. Okay, the means to overcome this worked, and I'm grateful to God for that. There's still residual phlegm. Oh goodness, 1 minute. There is still residual, oh goodness, no wait, 1 minute. There is still a residual situation in me, as you can tell, and now I'm feeling funny. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, but it's clearing. It's definitely clearing. My chest is not as tight. I'm not struggling to breathe anymore. All in just a matter of 24 hours. It's really very depressing when I don't work out. But anyway, I think I might skip workouts just one more day today. So I will have taken 2 days off, and I think I'll make up for it on the weekend. I'll work out on the weekend since I already skipped 2 days in the week. I'm not gonna wait to clear all the way until there's like nothing in my chest, because I can't afford to sit around. I can't. Yes, it's about my body. I gotta lose weight, but it's also about overcoming trash and overcoming depression. So I'm not feeling that good emotionally, but then again, I never really feel that great emotionally. One of the biggest sorrows in my heart right now is, I guess it dawned on me this morning when I woke up feeling slightly better physically, but not emotionally. When I went to the kitchen, and despite the heavy coughing, despite basically my sickness, I was just left with a pile of dishes on the sink to wash. So it was like, guys, you know what? I'm looking at God and I'm like, when is this gonna stop? Comprehend this, alright? I'm gonna talk about my family today, and pretty much the earth, who is rejoicing and celebrating and trying to extinguish Christianity and act as if though you can be as barbaric and as animalistic as you want to be and get away with it, or have nobody intervene. It's naive. It's entirely naive. If the world was allowed to be this chaotic, unfettered, with us going into the next 100, 200, 300 years, and nobody, like nothing ever, there being no staying hand on how evil people can be, we literally would all be screwed, because there is no end to what human beings can do to each other. I keep getting these dreams where my family members are these people that they're doing their own thing and I'm doing my own thing, and we're just gonna do our own thing each, and they anticipate thoroughly that they're gonna get to turn another 10 years of age, another 20 years of age, where they will entirely get away with what they've done to me, and there be absolutely no recourse or recompense for me. Essentially, like in my dream, all of us were living in this one house, and I was just the component of that house that has a religious difference, but we're all doing our own thing, except Kibaloi. Witches, the thing about witches is, after they cast spells, they treat their victims like trash in order to self-fulfill their prophecies concerning that victim. And they hope that the world will just imagine me as this thing that has a different life from the rest of us, but it's just a member of our family, whatever. First of all, I'm at odds with all of them. I don't like them all. I really don't care what happens to literally all of them. I have a prophecy given me by God about a cousin of mine that's facing death, and I could not care less because of her insanity. She's about to die, and all I can think about is good riddance, because frankly, you are a menace to society. I've been talking on a loop about that random incendiary cousin right? Because of the witchcraft that she has afflicted me with recently. And what she's trying to do, her little attempted assassination. I spoke about it. I've been speaking about it, and we used to be very close, as in the closest pairing in the family of cousins. Yet now, the prospect of her death does nothing to me. I'm unmoved. You see, that's just the thing. When you get people to that level of bitterness, like, I don't care. You know, in the world, people say that you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And not everybody is born into a responsible family. There are people who very unfortunately are born to dads that rape them. There are people who are born to mothers that beat them up. Family members that throw them under the bus, all that different kind of stuff. So I'm not going to sit here and have a sob story on some, oh, nobody loves me, because I recognize that I just so happen to be one of those uncomfortable, unfortunate souls on the earth that were born in pretty much a circus, okay? Like the Jungle Book. I was born in a circus, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And when you're born in a circus, the best thing you can do for yourself is, I guess, move out of the circus. While you can't choose your family, you can certainly choose your husband. You can choose your future family. You can choose your friends. You can choose who in society you roll around with. And my family members are not absent of that knowledge. They're not ignorant so as to imagine that I'm stuck with them. They know I'm not. That's just the uncomfortable thing for them. They know I'm not stuck with them, but presently I appear to be stuck with them. They have done everything in their power, literally went out of their way to make sure that I get nowhere. They keep casting new spells to make sure I never leave. They keep afflicting me to make sure I never go anywhere, so that I am stranded with them, so that I am stuck with them. Except they understand that the moment I gain my independence, I will literally never see any one of them again. There are many orphans in this world that have never known a single uncle, a single cousin, a single niece, nephew, because they grew up in an orphanage and everybody has always been water to them and not so much blood. And they went on right ahead to start lives, careers, get married, and essentially not really be too beaten down as their future progresses by the fact that their mom abandoned them at a homeless shelter when they were kids. But the fact that their sisters, even though they know who they are, could not care less to contact them and whatnot. I have that kind of a family. So there was a time when I used to watch Being Mary Jane, right? And there was a story, you know how she was a reporter, like a news anchor, and there is a story that she covered of this 38-year-old woman that died in her apartment, a white lady that died in her apartment, and nobody found her for 3 years. And the only reason why anybody knocked on her door was because her bank account started to go into overdraft. Right? It went into overdraft mode. And so therefore the landlord now was like, I'm not getting my rental anymore, where it is that she was staying. The bank was also like, well, like her debtors, essentially, the people that she owed money, the constant EFTs, not EFTs, but stop orders or monthly withdrawals of whatever she was paying off, they stopped getting this, and so now they were knocking on the door, mails were being dropped off on the floor, and of course the landlord wanted rental, and there comes a time when it's okay for you now to evict a tenant. And then she was found literally with like rotten pizza in front of her, and her cadaver, like her dried up corpse, on the couch watching television on a loop, and it was just going and going and going for 3 years. She wasn't found for 3 years. Fine, so Being Mary Jane, it was a fictional show, but it covered such things happen on Earth. There are people who pass away, and I will give you a story about a celebrity in this country. There's a female celebrity, I forgot her name, that also died like that, and she was not found for like 3 or 4 days in her apartment, and it was all quiet. And the only thing that raised suspicion, I suspect, might have been the rotting corpse in her apartment and the gardener imagining something is wrong. Like the person that in the complex that did gardening, where it is that she was staying, imagined something was wrong and called the police. And I would imagine that the thing that caused that man to call the police was because of the smell, because the body starts to decompose after some time, and he was like, something's wrong. So he called the authorities, and they discovered her dead body beginning to decompose, and none of her family members checked up on her. It's very unfortunate. That's what goes on, right? So my mom has always been very negligent of me. I don't know what's going on there, and I don't care. There are children that are born to very irresponsible moms. There are kids that are born to irresponsible dads. It happens. But in the world, when you are a child growing up with that kind of ridiculous parent, you always have these dreams of one day getting out and basically planning a better thing for yourself, where you'll meet somebody out there that's gonna care, somebody that's gonna give a damn, somebody that is going to call the authorities when you are missing for just 2 minutes. Instead of people that just sit back and watch you rot or do nothing when you're struggling. When you are crying, they couldn't even care less to find out why are you sobbing. If anything, they look at you on some, oh, she's in her moods again, she's locked herself in a bedroom all day and she doesn't want to come out. I have always coveted people, right, that whose tears matter. Like a person, like I remember when I was in matric, there was this at our farewell, our final farewell together as matriculants, not the matric dance, but it was like just some little party gathering that we did at some house, where we all gathered together. We were swimming and whatnot, and a whole bunch of us were there from the high school that we attended. And there was this one colored girl that was just throwing her toys out the cot and like crying all over the show. She was, snot and trana, and basically a party pooper, like a diva. She was being a diva. She was like a little party pooper, and she kept on crying and crying and crying, and she was just so emo all over the show type thing. And I remember it's an unfortunate thing with the black community. My friends and I just looking at her on some, this chick, whoa, like what in the world is going on? But there was a guy that kept on following her around on some, but why are you crying? Oh, babe, I'm sorry. And I would look at that guy and be like, Yazi, such things in the black community just don't happen. Where a person will start bawling, tears will start coming out of their eyes, and have somebody follow them around wondering, what's wrong? Please don't cry. Give them a tissue. Even when they bang a door, they still insist on standing outside of the door and trying to talk them out of the room. And stuff like that. That is a luxury that frankly is unheard of in the black community, where you have to swallow you have to swallow your tears. You have to just forget that you have emotion. Like, we've all been made in the image of God as human beings. You understand? And so we all are sweeted with emotion, meaning that, and again, women are made a particular way, so are men made a particular way. Women are emotional, more than men. So women across all races essentially have got a grander propensity towards just bursting out into tears at random stuff. They cry at movies, they cry at the smallest little infraction. They're always the ones that are struggling to consume certain imagery on the internet, etc. And it boils them, it gets them to a point of inyembezi, right? But in the black community, from the time that we are children, those tears are so ignored. Our tears as women, as girls, are so ignored that we get to a point where we just swallow stuff. We just take it like we're men or something. Like these unmoved, unemotional beings that, because of how much we get ignored when we cry, one, we do it a lot in private so that nobody ever sees that they might mock us for being crybabies. And secondly, we don't expect anybody to actually care. Even when we start, like when we get into a relationship, do you understand? Like a romantic relationship. In the beginning of that relationship, when you cry about something that's slapping you silly in that relationship, your boyfriend might react appropriately. But at some point, they get used to our tears, and so they stop reacting appropriately. And so now when you cry, they just take a walk. They get out. They leave. Like, guys, when your emotions are ignored. When the thing that, like, when you feel like nobody cares. When you feel like nobody cares, that stuff can make you act like you don't care about the fact that they don't care. It can make you feel like you have got to pretend like you have no emotions, like you've got to act like there's nothing going on in you, that you're not like charged emotionally. Except, like I said, women are made emotional in a way that I guess men aren't, type thing, and we all are like that from birth. But nurture, there's nature, then there's nurture. Nature is a default. Nurture, however, can cause us to pretend we are unmoved. That's why there are all these hard and appearing to be unfeeling rando females all over these streets in the black community that just look angry, and there's nothing at all of them that needs love and support. It is a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism to deal with the lack of love in the black community. And this lack of love is unfortunately not only coming from our men, but also other women. They literally do. They're like, how in the world do you go to your mother with your body sick. You don't know how bad the situation could get. And then she just leaves a pile of dishes for you to wash, despite you coughing like a geriatric, despite you coughing it up a storm. Nothing in her is like, okay, let me wash the dishes for the day. Let me mop the floor for the day. Let me do it. You are still on such a mission to finish what you start. Like, no one can have emotions as black people. No one. And the disquieting thing as well about this issue, this epidemic of emotionlessness in the black community, is that when a person does finally freaking die, when a person eventually kicks the bucket and they go into eternity, y'all know they have some of the most theatrical reactions at funerals. Black people have got some of the most theatrical reactions. They are thespians to, like, from here to Timbuktu. They are the ones that have these massive funerals, first and foremost, wasting a whole bunch of money. They are like the funeral Yamotomonto will last 2 weeks. There will be a memorial service in 4 different locations, and the people will be groveling, crying, mourning like no man's business. Sometimes even going to the point of throwing themselves on the floor and rolling, looking as if though, like, you know, they're struggling to grasp for air, the way that they are mourning a dead relative, a dead friend. But in the run-up to the death of that person, they will have been passing them shade, ignoring them. My little sister, her dad passed away. With her Anzamufa attitude, calls not getting taken, stuff like that. Like a person is trying to make amends with you, and then you pass them shade, and when they die, at the funeral. That's black people for you. They are unrehabilitable. Like, you can't even say, okay, look, let's talk. And them not try to basically continue to keep whatever war at present is happening. They don't like ceasefires. They don't like ceasefires. There's just always this war and no care. And the unfortunate thing is that as a black woman, you are inbuilt, given that you are a woman, with this heavy, hard knock internal compass of emotionality that is always just ransacking you. And you gotta just swallow that like a tough pill. So the best escape for a black woman is to find love out there. The best escape for a black woman, if they're born into a family, like our relationships are always getting severed. Friendships are always breaking up. Everybody's always got attitude. Everybody's always passing everybody's shade. So from the time you're a child, you tell yourself, I'm gonna be the kind of mother that hugs her children, that kisses her children, and I'm gonna marry a man that loves me, that's gonna check on me when I'm sad, that's not gonna give up on me, that's not gonna walk out the moment he sees a tear trickling down my face. I'm gonna do differently. But what's going on with me and my family is that decision that I made as a child, that I'm not tandola, we get it. When I cry, nobody cares. When I'm moody or my disposition, my temperature is blue, I'm obviously not okay. Everybody just is like, whatever, she's in her moods. Whoa. Like, whoa. How many white girls do you know that are not talking to anybody for the whole day and have locked themselves in the bedroom, that have got an entire family saying, hi, Suga, it's just one of her moods? Like, it is automatic. The alarm bells just go off. Sirens on some, whoa, is she depressed? What? Could she commit suicide? What's going on? Why? She's not acting herself today. In the black community, even though it's not in your character to just be in a swing of a mood, even though you're a bubbly girl, generally you're always very happy. You're always a happy-go-lucky girl. You're always jumping up and down like a kangaroo on the spot. So it's out of character for you to lock yourself in your bedroom all day. Even when that's the case, they will just leave you be. The whole day you will hope somebody's going to come and check on you. There is a song actually by this one, I think she's Nigerian, I stand corrected, artist. It's recently out now. Something about, I've been sitting here all the day, for the past 5 days. Did you check on me? I say, did you check on me? People. The name of the song is called People. She's basically lamenting about, why haven't you checked on me? It's not like we don't have a desire to be loved and checked on. When things are falling apart, when there is an emotional turbulence in us, we want somebody to check on us, but nobody's doing it. So what is the solution? Go and find people that are like-minded out there. Literally go on an expedition as a human being to seek out care. Seek it out so that you can cure yourself from the wounds of your upbringing, your past. Abantu that don't understand that emotions are not to be ignored. God put them in us in order. They're like alarm bells. They are sirens. They are warning signals to the world that do something, there is danger over here. Otherwise, if we were all flat and monotone, in the way that we were, if we just walked around like robots, nobody would know that somebody is sick. We cry, we scream. Our bodies, our pain receptors are there to help people understand there is something wrong with the body. There is something wrong with the body. Otherwise, if our bodies did not have any outward physical evidence of sickness inside, we would just drop dead and nobody would have seen it coming. That's what's going on. So when a person is crying, when they're emo, when a person is showing outwardly that something is wrong inwardly, black people, like, there ought to be a reaction that is like, are you cool? Check up on the person. But in the black community, get too lungy, and everybody just goes on their merry way. Everybody just goes on their merry way. So white women that date black guys, I don't even know how they survive. I really don't know. Like, you grow up in this loving environment where everybody was checking up on you, and then next thing you are dating this guy with reverse psychology that like thinks that you're throwing your toys out the cot, a temper tantrum when you cry all day long. Like, I don't even know how they survive it. I don't even know how they survive it. Like, I don't know how white girls that date black guys survive it, because it's a shock. It's a shock. It's a shock. It's a shock for you. It's a culture shock for you to get into a relationship with somebody that suddenly does not care to check up on you when you have been crying all day, when you're curled up like a fetus in a bed all day, and your face is red with tears, and then this person is like, "Aye, Joe, she's on that tip again, she's all moody." That's how black guys treat us. So I seriously do not know how white women deal with black husbands and how they deal with black boyfriends. I literally do not know how they take it, because it is a culture freaking shock for them. But with us in the black community, it is so part and parcel of what it is that we do, that now our coping is to indeed disappear in a corner, coil up like a fetus as a black girl until you get over it, and then you stand up and pretend like nothing ever happened. Very cold and unloving marriages, and also very cold and unloving parents, very cold and unloving friends. Nobody is there for you. And so when I was a kid, when I observed that phenomenon in matric with this one colored girl just crying all over the show and her boyfriend following her around, I was like, oh wow, I wish if I cried like that, but instead if I cried like that, I would just be left and just like to get over myself. And unfortunately, that's the very thing that causes a bunch of people encircling a suicide in the black community, a suicide prospect, somebody that is literally on the edge of suicide. That is what causes that person to eventually jump over the edge. Like, some youth in the black community can actually be rescued from suicide if black people cared a little bit more. If they actually intervened, if they went and asked the person, how are you doing? There is so little care that there aren't enough preventative measures to prevent suicide from happening. South Africa, which is a largely black country, is the second country on the earth right now statistically it's got the second highest rate of suicide in the world, as opposed to, coming second to no one but Russia. Yeah, South Africa's got that for statistics. And it's a black country, largely. That's what's going on. The majority of people committing suicide are not whites. It's not Indians. It is black, especially youth. It's black youth. When we never used to have a problem with committing suicide back in the day, as black people, it was always what we imagined to be a white issue. And now it is infiltrating the black youth. Why? Because of this problem. Fighting all over the show like no man's business, and then leaving people to be depressed after they've lost jobs. Leaving people to be depressed after they sit around doing nothing, gathering dust all day long. People that cannot come up for air, that cannot breathe. People that are also being demonically oppressed by all this witchcraft in the black community. And so kids are hanging themselves left, right, and center. They are committing suicide left, right, and center. And it is an issue that the government has highlighted as a problem. But there is nobody in the black community rising up to be like, questions. We gotta ask people, why did you not come out to eat namhlanje? Like, a teenager will lock herself for 24 hours in a bedroom, in a household, in a black home, and nobody will knock on that door to find out what's going on. When their emotions are that volatile, they will literally just ignore this girl to cry. I won. And in all that crying, by the way, of hers, her mother will still knock on her door, right? And not wonder why my daughter all weekend long has not come out for 5 hours from that bedroom. No, she's just locked in there. Yeah. She will then knock on her door. Rough. Footstep ya Godzilla. On some hey wena lerato. Ha wa tlhatswa dijana. Le don't all bizo robetse letsatsi kaofela. I'm sorry. I'm totally busy. Oh, robetse letsatsi kaofela sa tlhatswa dijana. Wrong minute. I'm sorry, robetse letsatsi kaofela sa tlhatswa dijana. Do you seriously think are these dishes going to wash themselves? Get out of bed and wash the dishes. She's not even asking herself. This is out of Lerato's character. She's not one to sleep for 5 hours on end without washing the dishes because she knows her mom is irritated by that. You can't sleep overnight with dishes in the sink. So when Lerato is acting different from the way that Lerato usually acts, it should be a cause for concern. The mom should be wondering, what's going on, Lerato? Why haven't you woken up and the house has just been left alone? Talk to me. No. Instead, she will be yelling, she will be pouncing on her, and she will insist that Lomundlona that's got like a morbid depression that is coming from what? You don't even want a prognosis. You don't even want to get a prognosis as to what's going on, let alone a diagnosis. Instead, you're just yelling at a person that has already got a ton of bricks from something else that happened outside Mpilweni. The kid could have gone and taken an HIV test and come out positive. And so that's why I get depressed. That's what I get saying. She's considering suicide, but she's scared to die. And then you wake up. You wake her up. That's what's good. Like that. In that state, without even asking what's going on. And then you tell her wash the dishes. So it's just business as usual. Your daughter has tested positive for HIV. She is depressed. Something has changed her life forever. And you can tell that there is a change in her behavior. And yet you are still insisting Uralo Koroba Kitchen. With me, if I had left those dishes and that kitchen as muddy as it was on the floor until my mother came back from wherever it is that she was, I would have had somebody knocking on this door yelling at me for leaving Izicha, Mina. Or I would have been given so much attitude that I would never have known whether I'm coming or going, despite her having made an observation that I'm sick. Despite her also knowing that, it's not like me to do that. It's out of my character. For me, I'm always just trying to protect myself from all different kinds of being pounced on by random monsters. So disregarding that this is against my character, I don't generally act that way, and the fact that you happened upon understanding that you would have still passed me shade, or you would have still yelled at me for not doing that, which is the status quo, the general day-to-day thing. Nobody can get sick in the black community. Nobody. And be left to be. And basically nursed back to health. Nobody's there to stroke your cheek. Nobody is there to bring you lemon juice or to bring you lemon tea with ginger. Nobody is trying to put a towel on your head when you have a fever. You gotta figure it out yourself. When I was a child, yes then guys. Yes, like it, no. I've been trying to get out of my family since I was a child. Since I was a child, I always longed for more. I wanted more. I knew that this unloving, cold atmosphere where nobody even hugs each other, I don't want it. I knew that I wanted differently. There was a time when I was so sick as a kid. Guys, as in, black people, I'm sorry, I can't. And I would. It's not just my family. It's across the board. It's friends. Abantu, but talking about all letting thing as the me water basically. It's blood and water. Just insofar as imnyama, it's got the skin tone. I can't deal. I could have been 12, 11. So I mean that's the kind of age where a mother should be very concerned about a child, isn't it? Anything that could happen at school, or have you been molested? Has a teacher touched you funny? Yeah, you worry about a child because people take for granted they recognize the vulnerability of children. And so you always need to be making sure that your kid is okay. I woke up, guys, vomiting. Do you understand? My stomach was killing me. I didn't know what in the world was going on. And here it is that I am vomiting. And I took a bath anyway, planning to go to school because I didn't want to upset teachers for being absent. That's a black child for you. They can't even tell their mother they're sick. They can't even tell their parent that they are sick. Because they are so used to being ignored, and they're also so used to being yelled at. They're so used to uguchikwa for just about everything, with very little sensitivity awarded these children, that they imagine that even if their bodies are sick and they now have to skip school, that it's a bad thing. That hey, you don't want to go to school, you're making it up. You're pretending you're sick. Because how many times have I been told when I woke up with the flu as a child in the earlier days to that date that uniform. Hey guys, I've got stories for days. Do you understand? Before I even tell you the one where I woke up vomiting, much earlier when I still used to go to a school in Soweto, before they moved us over to these learning model schools, C schools, there was a kid in the school whose teacher, in my school, in my class, right, it could have been grade 0 or grade 1 or something. This kid stood up, do you understand what I'm saying? And went to the teacher and was like, ma'am, can I please go to the bathroom? The teacher was like, no! Wahlala, this kid. This kid went and sat down. The kid comes back after 10 minutes and is like, ma'am, can I please go to the bathroom? I mean, that's a second time that a child is asking to go to the bathroom. You cannot just assume that that's Dennis the Menace trying to get out of class and be, naughty in the bathrooms and skip a lesson of how to draw triangles. The teacher still went and told this, I mean, if you're in grade not, how old are you? 6 years old. The kid went back and sat down. Ultimately, everybody around that child started to laugh. Why was everybody laughing around that kid? Because he urinated on himself in the classroom. It's making me so emotional just to think about that. Now that I'm all grown up, it's heartbreaking to think about it. He urinated, and then all the other kids in the class laughed at him for Witotela. And what did the teacher say? Okay, fine, go to the bathroom. He's already finished his business right there. Wait, what's he gonna do now? What's he gonna do now? He can't stay in school. He can't stay in school. Is he gonna stay in school with like wet pants from urine? It was a black school with a black teacher. And she imagined that just in so anything that a child is trying to do, the idea of discipline is to be so harsh with an iron fist that they can't even gauge that sometimes it is possible for a child to be honest, and it is also irresponsible to just disregard a child's needs because you are naughty or you gotta be that. Now that kid ended up urinating right there on the spot. There was yet another incident where corporal punishment back in the days of it was like latter part of apartheid, etc. You could still beat kids up with a rod, flogging and what have you. The teachers were so violent in the way that they used to flog kids in school. Like it was just unacceptable, frankly. Just abusive to abantwana. That's okay. No love. Like where is the love? That they would pick, like they would tell you when you're in trouble. It's essentially danger. That word was not even it was a Freudian slip that was rightfully placed for me to use the word danger instead of trouble, because it was danger. Okay, whenever you were in trouble / danger, the teacher would tell you, go to a tree outside on the school playground, wherever you're somewhere, and go and pick a twig from the tree that I'm gonna then flog you with. So go and pick your own method of punishment. I mean, that level of fear that you put in a child. And one kid got into trouble / danger in the school. Do you understand what I'm saying? And was told, go and pick your own twig from a tree. Your own tuba from a tree that I'm going to hit you with. He picked one, came back to the class, and the teacher beat that boy up in front of us. She beat him up until his ear. How that even got to his ear, I don't understand. Because at this point, if you're gonna call it a spanking or not taking a rod away from the child, you should be gunning for the hand, and you should also be gunning for the bum, and even then it's a child. So don't be heavy and hard knock. Don't insist on bringing a bruise on. Just disquiet them a little bit with a you don't from like up there on a child. That's abuse. Yeah, no. So how that landed on that boy's ear, how that whip, how that like in a tuba, that branch, that twig of a tree, how it landed on his ear, I don't get it. And his ear got cut and it bled. That's how harshly this woman was beating this kid up as he was busy jumping up and down, and then he bled. That teacher was obviously scared that the parents might come the next day and say, why did you cause my child to bleed, type thing. That did not happen. That kid probably went home and his mom saw it, or his dad, his grandmother saw that his ear was cut, and likely asked, where's that thing? Responded, no, I was hit at school. Oh yeah, or stole to John. Really? Your child comes home with his ear cut, like slightly, right? And there's like a bandage on it. And all you can say is, Ostotu, don't do it again. That's black parents for you. Even when teachers take corporal punishment too far, they ain't trying to come and intervene in the school. This teacher was scared that this boy's parents would come the next day, and they didn't. He just rocked up in class, but with a bandage on his ear. And during one of the breaks in class, she called that boy and was like, boy, how's your ear? All right. Basically, she was guilty, but not before first pouncing on that child with so much violence that his ear got cut. That's black people for you. No regard for humanity, for people, and the children, even kids, from as early as grade 0, what's like 6, 7 years old, 5, 6, 7 years old. are taught suck it up. Because even your parents, when you go home with an unfortunate bruise on your ear from Koskolong, not because you were playing rough on the school playground, but because a teacher hit you until you got that kind of an injury, you still are left in Jeffela to ride it out. It is no wonder boys grow up to be these insensitive husbands and boyfriends, and it is no wonder our girls suck it up and they don't cry when nonsense is going down. Because from as early as that little age, emotions of children are disregarded entirely, and travesties and dangers that slap children are ignored to a point where it's imagined like nothing at all. When your kid gets abused eskolweni by a teacher that should get fired. That was what happened when I was still in grade 9. Now I'm in Winchester Ridge Primary School, a little bit older, could be like 11, 12 years old. And I wake up one morning vomiting. Don't know what I ate in there the previous day, perhaps some bad food, I don't know, but I'm vomiting. And because of the knowledge of how it is that I am regarded as irresponsible purely because of my age, and I am told that I'm a lazy kid and I'm all these things, that I cannot just skip school. I can't just skip school. So despite vomiting, despite it being the first thing I did in the morning when I woke up vomiting, I still took a bath. And I still put a shirt on. I still put my school dress on, my school skirt on. I still put my shoes on. And I kept on running to the bathroom. I kept on running to the toilet to vomit, and it was the observation of my little sister, who in and of herself, not little, older sister, she was older than me by 2 years. In and of herself, she was still a child. So like I said, as kids, we make an observation that this is not a loving enough environment. We want more for ourselves. We are still with our innocence intact. So the most sentient people in the black community are children. The most responsibly, appropriately responsive people to black pain in the black community, they're the ones that are like, askisi mama, sorry osi, this, that. They're the ones that are still with God's image fully operational in them, but it gets seared out of them. It gets filed down, such that by the time they become teenagers and early adults, they are cold now too. They are cold. So my sister was still a kid herself. She was like, 12, I was 10. She was like, 11, what's this, 13, and I was 11. So she still had emotion, like that was still operating appropriately. So when my little sister made an observation that I keep vomiting like all morning long, that this thing is not, you know how sometimes when you vomit you get relief and then you're good again, that's what's good. No, I was not coming up for air. I was not surviving. I was not making it. That's what's good. And my sister was like, Karabo, you sorry. Sorry. Sorry, I don't want to gross you out. Anyway, my sister was like, Karabo, you can't go to school like this. You're going to be vomiting all day. And then she looked at my mom. Answer, ma, Karabo can't go to school like this. And my mom was like, okay. My mother, upon observing me vomiting all over the show, well, not all over the show, I would go to the bathroom. I guess I was not so much potty trained, but I guess trained enough to not just vomit right there. Sorry. My sister's the one that was like, Karabo can't go to school like this. And then my mom was like, okay, fine. So if you when as a parent, sorry. If you as a parent, sorry, I need to blow my nose. Hey, I'm back. If as a parent, you wake up in the morning and your child is vomiting, would you still insist on going to work? Would you still insist on it being business as usual? What in the world? Like, there are certain things that ought to take priority. My mom just said, because my sister recommended it, she was just like, fine, you can stay. And then she left me. They all left. My sister went to school and my mom went to work. It was just all us. No father figure in the house, nothing. And I was left in the house to pretty much vomit all day by myself. I was left alone in the house. This woman left a sick child. A sick child. Do you understand? A sick 11-year-old vomiting from here to Timbuktu in the house. She was facing the risk of coming home to a blue body in a bed or on the floor because it died. I was that sick. And she left me. Did not even try to call a nanny or somebody if it was urgent for her to be at work to see me, to try and pull in a favor. there was an aftercare next door that I used to go to after school because they didn't trust me with the key. So I had to wait for my older sister to come back from school, and I would have to be at that aftercare until such time that they came back. Until my sister came back from school. Right? And so she could have pulled in a favor at the aftercare and been like, look, I'll pay you like $300 or whatever. My daughter is sick. Can you please just keep checking on her every couple of hours? Because I really got to go to work and I'm not really sure how bad her condition is. Or even like, see if you can't drive her. Call an uncle or somebody that doesn't work in the family to take me to a clinic, to take me to the doctor. If you personally cannot go, like proper, there are things that ought to be done. And I don't know of anybody in an office that would be so unfeeling and insensitive that when your child is literally vomiting all over the show, that they'd be like, why aren't you clocking into work? I know women have it bad in corporate, in that when they are always raising, my child is sick, my child, sometimes there's a lot of insensitivity concerning that, but you get around it. You like proper, your child comes first. Your kid comes first. This woman left me all day, guys, in the house. I was vomiting like no man's business, and she just went to work and my older sister to school respectively. I was so sick that I had to I tried to, when everything I would eat would come out, right? I would vomit it. We had a landline, and thankfully it was one of those they bill you at the end of the month landlines, right? And my grandmother was still alive at the time, and I crawled to the kitchen and I dismantled the phone from the wall, because it was one of those phones that you would hook on the wall and you pretty much had to be standing to be on the phone, right? And I was still a child, so I was kind of short. I had yet to have my growth spurt, so I could not reach the landline where it was sitting, but I could not stand for too long because that would cause me to vomit even more. I had to be lying down on the floor, so I unmounted the phone from the wall and I put it on the floor. And while I was lying on the kitchen floor, because the phone was in between the lounge and the kitchen, while I was lying on the kitchen floor, I called my grandmother in Soweto, right? And I was like, Mama Kyakula, I am sick, I don't know what to do. And I was crying. I did not call my mom. It did not dawn on me to call my mom. Why? I could have called my mom in her offices, because I knew her number, and plus the numbers of people were put on, you know, that small little thing back in the days, those old school phones. They would put people's numbers. They 011, this, that, this is Nkhono, this is that. Yeah, so the number was there. However, I had memorized my mom's work number, and I'd also memorized my grandmother's landline number, Kotladi. And I called my grandmother instead because I saw the apathy of my mom. Goodness gracious, I saw the apathy of my mother. And so I knew that she was not going to do much for me. Plus, I had an experience before that time where I was sick like this again, and she was upset at me for being sick. I might even tell you even that story. So I called my grandmother, expecting her to have more compassion on me, and indeed she did. I was like, I'm sick, I'm vomiting, I don't know what's going on, and it's getting worse and worse. It's really terrible. My grandmother was then advised me to drink water with some sugar in it, and she gave me all of these, like, you know, grandmother remedies. But as soon as I got off the phone with my grandmother called my mom on some, woman, your child is sick, like wakula ukata home phone no. My mom had knowledge of this. She was aware. She was aware because she was there in the morning when I woke up, and my grandmother had to rebuke her, to tell her to come, to basically get over whatever she's doing and go and tend to her child. I'm at this point like 11. My mom is in her late 30s, right? So basically my age. I cannot fathom, as a mother of an 11-year-old child, being upset at my kid for being sick. I can't fathom it. In my 39-year-old body, I cannot fathom it. I cannot, maybe even mid-30s, because she had me when she was 26. I cannot fathom being upset because I'm at the office and I'm doing my job. MTN, running a meeting, and then somebody calls me and tells me my child is groveling on the floor vomiting, and then I get upset because I have to cut my meeting short at work. I would not, I can't fathom doing that. I can't fathom it. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe there are people who can relate with my mom. Lo and behold, in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, my mom was now back home. right? When I called my grandmother, it could have been like 9-10 in the morning, because you wake up very early to go to school, and by the time like 7:30, 6:30 hits, everybody has left the house to go to school, etc., because you gotta deal with traffic, etc. So it was still early morning, meaning her day had just started. What would be the automatic reaction that you would walk in when your child is sick first thing in the morning? What would you do? You would call in at work and tell them, my kid is sick, I am going to take them to a doctor, I might come in a little bit later, or just take the whole day off, but I would need to like find a nanny real quick, please have mercy, I'm gonna be in a little bit. That's what you would do. The first thing you would do is take your kid to the doctor. You would take your kid to the doctor. You would not risk it in Defela. Call like, oh, what is this, like wing it. You wouldn't just wing the situation, for crying out loud. Instead, my mom decided to go to work, and when then my grandmother called her on some go back home to take care of your child, she got upset, was there, I called my grandmother at like 9-10 in the morning. She was there by like 12 p.m. in the afternoon. So essentially she did not do her full day at work, right? She was there. She was my age, this age that I am right now. Yeah. So like I said, I can't fathom it. We can't even blame it on being senile or old. And so you've got old people, a lack of apathy, because some people that are old, because they've just had so much hardship in this world. This is a 35-year-old woman, 7-year-old woman that is doing this to her own child. Like, what in the world is going on? Anyway, she comes home at around 12 p.m. Right? And instead of like being like, oh, my child, what's going on? How do you feel? Like, let me check your fever. Nothing. She was upset with me. And she told me to quickly put on something, because I was just wearing like a panty and a school t-shirt, because remember, I started to get dressed and I was so sick that I could not even take off his ihempe. So I was wearing my school t-shirt and walking around the house like that, and she told me to put on some pants or a skirt and then take me to the doctor. And the way that she spoke to me was harsh. She was like, apara, she was upset with me because I called my grandmother because I couldn't call her. Anyway, went to the doctor, and the doctor then I don't know, did whatever the doctor did. A medical center not far from where we stayed. The doctor saw me, gave me medication, blah blah, told me I'm sorry, to stay at home, basically, the sick leave, right? So this time around I had permission from a doctor to stay at home, because I was in the black community, we are always just accused of crimes as children. Like, yeah, when you stay off from school, it's like you want to stay home from school. You can't just be sick, and that's why, so now when the doctor gave me a sick note, I was comfortable with staying, because I was uneasy with staying at home lest the teacher should, we were always just getting disciplined for no reason, okay? That's what's good. So this time around I was, okay, I need to blow my nose. Yeah, because the doctor gave me a sick note, I was comfortable with staying at home, and the only person that was actually kind to me during that sickness, other than my grandmother, was the doctor themselves. You know how doctors are with kids? They speak to you in a sweet way, they give you a lollipop and all that jazz. That doctor was very, very kind to me. Very, very sweet, and I felt relieved, but my mom was irritated. Like, she was irritated, even throughout the doctor's visit. When we were in the waiting area at the doctor's rooms, I was vomiting all over the show, so I had to lie down. That's what's good. And then one time I even got up to go and vomit in one of the bathrooms. My mom didn't come. And my mom didn't come with me. Like, when I was so nauseous that I wanted to go and vomit, she did not follow me to the bathroom to help me vomit. She just sat there. She was irritated with me for taking her out of work. Anyway, whatever, I recovered. I think I went to school after like 3 days, so only went to school maybe like on a Friday or something, and had skipped like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday type setup thing. My older sister, however, yeah, that's the one. My older sister was the one that was checking up on me when she came back from school. Are you okay? Are you alright? Have you taken your medication? And she would come and help me out and whatnot. So my older sister was taking care of me. And I've said this over and over again. My older sister, the change of personality that she walked in later on in life was because of her involvement in darkness and all these different things. But she was more like a mother to me when we grew up. So she's a very big loss. She's a massive loss. Like, when I came, the diametric opposition that we are in now is a travesty. It is tragic because she was very, very mothering towards me when we grew up. And I like to say, if it wasn't for my older sister, I don't know what would have happened with me as a child, because my mom was just so negligent. My older sister became the mother that I never had, so she was the one that was giving me medicine, checking how am I doing, and even coming back from school earlier than normal instead of just hanging out with her friends just to check that I'm okay during that week. My mom never ever bounced out or snapped out of the mistreatment. She never snapped out of it. Even when the doctor gave me 3 days off, she never snapped out of it. Yes, like it.